Welcome to another edition of Elections Insights. I'm your host, Wendell Jeffrey, and I'm pleased that you would join us. In the studio tonight is a very special young man and very engaging, very knowledgeable. And we're going to have a gaffe. We're going to have a gaffe tonight as we gear up for these elections come September 1. So without any further ado, let me welcome you to our special guest tonight, Dr. Campbell, Dr. Terrence Campbell. Welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Wendell.
Thank you. Doc, I know very little about you personally. I understand some of your dynamics and some of the things that drive you. You went to school in Scotland for your doctoral degree?
Yeah.
Business administration. How are you from Napier? Napier? Napier.
Yeah.
Aside from that, take a minute and tell the audience something that they don't know about Dr. Campbell.
Wow. Maybe that when I left school, I went to study law, but I didn't have enough money to finish. So I worked for about 6.5 years in insurance, hand in hand, before going into business.
Okay.
Yeah. So my first profession, kind of post-secondary, was actually insurance management.
Okay. Any regrets that you didn't do law?
I don't know if I have regrets, but I could see how law would have been an interesting career for me. First of all, I'm not happy with the practice of law in Guyana at all, right? And I'm not saying that there aren't examples of excellence in practice here in Guyana, but by and large, I think that we've fallen from the commanding heights. You know, when I was growing up in high school, we had stalwarts in the legal profession. J.O.F. Haynes, B.O. Adams, Clarence Hughes, Do Not Sing, the Locos, and so on. And very often in those days, in any major Caribbean case, you could find somebody leaving Guyana
To represent.
to go in there to represent. I remember in particular the trial after the Grenada Revolution.
Correct.
J.O.F. Haynes was president of that court. Clarence Hughes might have been on the prosecution side or the defense. He might have been for the defense. Do Not was, I think, on the other side. And we had several such lawyers who had not only local practices in Guyana, but regional practices. Right. You know, before that we had people like Sir Donald Jackson, who had gone, around the world, I think as far as Africa, practicing law. More recently, Justice Stanley Moore, who just passed away, practiced, worldwide. And now when there is a major matter, especially of constitutional importance, the Barbadians and Trinidadians have come in.
Jamaicans.
Yeah, and so I think it's a sign of where the legal profession has gone in this country.
Wow.
It is not where it should be. It should be. In fact, it should have grown from.
Yeah, because you had those shoulders to stand on.
So I think
it might be a blessing that you didn't go into it, because you might have been lumped together with them.
No, I don't think so. I think I remember a phrase by Justice P.A. Cummins. He was a justice of appeal. Judges must not lend wings to their feet. In other words, when you have to deliver justice, you deliver it with courage, cost it what you will. And I believe that if I had gone into the practice of law, I would have been of that ilk.
Wow.
I think I would have been successful.
Good. Which, and I'm glad you said that, because now I'm going to put you on the spot. Because when I listen to you and discuss matters, you come across to me as of the ilk of a Walter Rodney kind of individual. And that is why I am surprised that you team up with an established political party. because you do not come across as though you subscribe to the philosophies of these larger parties. So you come across to me as though you're a small party guy or a beginning party guy, or to do what Rodney did and start your own party. How difficult was it for you to throw your hat in the ring with an established party, given your uniqueness, and you just alluded to that?
So you're not wrong in what you said, and if you if you go back to 2020, though the motivation was different, in 2020 I was a little disappointed with the coalition government. I thought they could have done more. Quite frankly, I don't think they did such a terrible job, but I thought more could have been done. And I feared that they were going to lose that election. And so, in terms of your describing me as a small party guy, I did team up with Timothy Jonas, Ralph Ramkaran, and Henry Jeffrey at the time to start ANUG. But I left before they could even start, because I got the sense that we were supposed to be independent, but we were not as independent as we needed to be. And I think in some of those small parties from 2020 subsequently justified my fear that they were not as independent as they needed to be. Historically, I was always afraid to join. I don't like the characterization of me being a Walter Rodney type. Walter was an exceptional scholar. And those are shoes too big for me to ever fill, not in this lifetime or perhaps a few more. I just want to put that out there. An exceptional scholar. However, I may bear some resemblance in terms, I'm a bit of a radical. And so it has not been easy for me to, being a radical, to be with an established party. But two things are operating at this point in time. I am 61 heading for 62. I am over the hill, heading downhill and starting to gather steam, right? And Guyana is not where I would like it to be. I have lived mostly in Guyana. I do spend a lot of time outside of the country, but always at least one foot has been solidly planted here. So I've never lost touch with what's happening on the ground. And I would have liked to see we have great potential, even without oil. And I think that has been, I think corruption and so on has helped to damage us achieving that potential. The corruption is corrosive in the sense that what it does, it stifles those, or it blocks opportunity for those who don't want to engage.
I know that you can spend some time, but I'm listening to you, and I'm reading between the lines. You said that when you team up with Ralph and Dr. Jeffrey and those guys, you left before ANUG really took hold, and it was because of what you perceived was going to happen. Now you're teaming up with another party, and there must be some similar perceptions. Are you sure that you are prepared to go with the APNU for the long haul, given your innate personality type, and more particularly what drives you? Are you sure you're gonna run the full gamut?
Yeah. There comes a point in your life. So I was coming to the 62 issue. One, I want to see change, right? I want to see change in Guyana. And two, being 62, there's not much more. I don't want to be one of those who's dragging on in politics 70, 75. No. Let the youths take over, right? So I don't have a lot of runway, you know. My plane is covered, and I really got to take off at this point. And it's at the point where starting a party, a new party, you know, it's a bit of a, maybe I was 40. Having said that, I've been in business long enough and worked, even though I am in business and I've been in business on my, quote unquote, on my own for almost 40 years, no man is an island, Wendell, you know? So like I've represented FedEx in Guyana. I handle stuff for Caribbean Airlines. And as much as I'm my own businessman, sometimes they'll call and they say jump and I gotta say how high. So I also know how to work with others and to be subordinate, right? I know how to do that, especially if there is a bigger cause. And so the issue right now that why I can say that I'm committed to this is that of the major players in this election, I see corruption and I see a party that has at its heart doing better for Guyana.
And that's the
APN.
You know, I asked President Granger in one of the few press conferences he had, because he only had few when he was president. And in one of them, I asked a question. I said, President Granger, now that you are in office, the opposition at the time, which was the PPP, are accusing you of corruption. When you were in opposition, you accused the PPP of corruption. Were you wrong when you accused the PPP of corruption? Or is the PPP right when they are accusing you of corruption now? He laughed it off and never answered the question. Was there any corruption when APNU was in power for the last 5 years, during our 5 years?
There were things that I, as a businessman, that I saw that I was not happy with.
So you are actually saying as it relates to corruption, you're choosing the lesser of the two evils? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that.
What you're saying? Because if you're concerned about corruption, and would say that as a businessman, there are things that you don't like, when the answer was there corruption, then...
I saw things that I don't like.
Right, but the question was corruption.
Right.
So are you saying that there was no corruption?
I'm saying I'm a politician
right,
now.
Good.
I'm saying
Right. So we're on the same page.
I'm saying the things I saw that I didn't like.
Good, right. And then after, so that's what I'm saying. And that's why I'm saying, that's why I'm asking you.
But let me go ahead. I think first of all, there was the APNU AFC. This is now APNU. And even in relation to the APNU prior to 2020, I think it bears little resemblance to the APNU today.
Okay.
What I'm saying to you is that there has been an inflection point. And so APNU prior to 2020 is not APNU today. APNU today is led by Aubrey Norton, and he was not part of the central apparatus of that APNU. He was to the periphery. And I don't think there's another person any other person from the APNU, I'm almost 100% sure that there's nobody else who sat in central government with the APNU that is currently a part of the APNU today. So it's a completely, we can call it a new entity.
And that was one of the deciding factors for you? When you looked at that, was that one of the things that helped you to make a decision to be with them?
It's a completely new entity. In every engagement that I have had with Aubrey, we don't always agree, you know, but it's been straightforward. You know, I shoot from the hip, he shoots from the hip, you know, we say clearly what is it that we want. So I am comfortable supporting him in this venture to win the 2025 election.
As you seek to take off, the metaphor you give for where you are and the need for you to get traction over the next few years, where do you see yourself? What role do you see yourself playing in the party or for the country? What's the big picture for Terrence?
So let me say that I'm not caught up on roles. I think previously, early in the year, I said on more than one program that I was prepared to be private or general, wherever anybody sought to place me. These days I find myself saying it a little different, and I don't know why, but I'm prepared to bat, I'm prepared to bowl, I'm prepared to field, or I'm prepared to fetch water.
I like that. The reason I ask that question is because my field, I'm a criminologist. I work with ex-offenders, recovering addicts, at-risk children, and should I get an opportunity to help any administration, that's the field I would help in. That's my forte, reducing crime and recidivism, both at the adult and at the juvenile levels. So it was with that in mind that I asked you, if you were to say to whoever will ask, I would prefer to do this, what would be your preference for the national, what national contribution Terrence would like to be known to have made?
You know, Wendell, you and I might be more alike, because my interest and yours are closely aligned. I have watched the breakdown in our society. And it didn't start now, it started decades ago. And it's now generational. And I've been preaching. I think you're a pastor too, right? Yeah. And I have been preaching, not at the pulpit, but to anybody who would listen on Facebook or wherever. I've been preaching about our education system. And I'll just cite one statistic: 50% high school dropouts. And we have no plan, absolutely no plan, in the past for dealing with that situation. And so a lot of what you now deal with are really a product of the education system and the breakdown in the family, which accelerates because we had children who we had failed as a society, who are then producing children.
Correct.
Right?
It's a cycle.
And it's going, and you'll have a school system. You know, I know of my aunt was a deputy headmistress, and I know of parents going and telling her, you know, we give up on this boy. And I know of one particular case, and it's somebody whose name you probably know well, where she said, "Are you crazy? Send him to me. Send him to my house in the afternoons." That person gained a PhD and served at senior levels in Guyana and internationally. And I've heard of many such stories. Recently, I don't remember, there was a guy who became, I think, a senior executive at Republic Bank. This is within the last 6 months. And I forget what school he was going to. I think it was on the East Coast. And he passed, I think, for Bladen Hall. And his mother sent him back to the primary school. So the primary tops go up, you know, maybe another 2 years in the primary school. And the teacher sent him out, chased him away when he turned up there. Went with him to his mother and said, "This boy must go to Bladen Hall." He went there, and today he is on, I think I'm pretty sure, it was in the national newspapers, his story.
What's your passion?
So what I'm saying, my passion is really education. That's what I would like to see education transformed. Here
you have a strategy, you have a strategy, you have something in your mind that you would try, that you would implement?
First of all, I don't think that's where I'll end up, you know, when we gain office. But to any extent that I'm in the cabinet, that I'm called to be in the cabinet, I will be. Whoever is heading education will have me as a nightmare.
You light a fire under them.
Yeah, I'll be lighting a fire under them. Because I think we have to start. We have a high poverty rate in Guyana.
Correct.
Right? World Bank says almost 50%. So we got to start there.
Education.
We got to start there. We got to start with those babies and nutrition and so on. Okay. And there are many children, even in this oil economy, who are going to school on an empty stomach.
Well, everybody. I spoke with Nigel. I spoke to Nigel Hughes in his capacity. I spoke with North Aubrey in his capacity. They sat where you're sitting. And they're all promising what this current administration is saying that they have promised and they will continue to promise, which is meals at school and so on. So
that's not all. But that's not all you need to do.
I'm saying that when you talk about nutrition, that's what I was saying. I know
that's important.
It's holistic.
But I think we need to. I've looked at one of my kids was not educated here and it's been completely in the American system. And I look at the Canadian and American system, and I look at the way they teach. It's more about stimulating their curiosity than this, rote learning.
But America, I worked in the American school system. I worked in what they call a Title I school, one of the largest Title I schools in the South Bend, Indiana area. I was what they call a family and community specialist. So the children who were having problems, I was the face of the parent and the school. I brought them together. And there are a lot of problems in the school systems in America. But I understand what you say, that pound for pound, the focus is kind of different.
When I was growing up, and kids came from London, because very often Guyanese were in the UK and they were returning home. And the kids came from London, they were behind us.
Yeah, I know.
And the kids came from the US, they were lost. Right?
I know.
That pendulum, I'm not saying that it's uniform across, there are problems, but that pendulum has swung. Because my daughter goes to a public school in Long Island, and I have seen that one day, I forgot what she was telling me, in what would be the equivalent of grade 6. And I know that we're only doing that maybe in second or third form, and she was handling that. And so that pendulum has swung. And interestingly, I saw some statistics on QC's performance on the SATs. In as much as QC maybe tops the Caribbean, the SAT scores are not that great, or the students.
One of the things that when I listen to persons who are vying to administrate is the promise. We're getting a lot of promise as citizens. Promise to upgrade education and upgrade the health and upgrade the transportation and upgrade the housing. And I just wonder, should APNU get into power September 2nd, you're going to have the current system to work with. And how do you, and this is a rhetorical question, how do you turn that ship around? How do you turn around the ship of education and the ship of health and the ship of housing and infrastructure? You understand? Because you have ingrained certain deficiencies, and you have said it. It's not now. It's something that has become almost systematic over the years, and so let's pivot a little.
No, I want to deal with it. I want to deal with it for a second.
Go ahead.
Let me say, and I don't know how he is engaged with. I'm not gonna presume he has done the same thing with others who he expects to be in his administration, but I think it is likely. But let me say, in whatever role that Mr. Norton has earmarked for me. He has already instructed me to prepare my implementation plan to deliver on which is, I've been a businessman and a CEO forever, which is the correct thing for him to do. So he's already said, Terrence, I need you to, these are the things we want to get done, implementation plan, and I'm already working on that, whether it's legislation that will be involved, the AG, this, that. So from day one that we take up administration, there will be no slowdown. And the movement, I will presume, right, because he's come to me, I am sure there are other imported that he has gone to those people and said, hey, these are the things you have to deliver on. These are the things we have promised. I need you to have your plans how we hit the ground running. So I think people, voters, can rest assured that this is an APNU administration that will come to power prepared to execute from day one. And I've been in business for almost 40 years. I don't take government contracts. I haven't had a godfather. All I know about is an idea, putting it into practice, executing it, and growing it. That's all I've done for 40 years.
Yeah, and with all due respect, you're unique. You, Terrence Campbell, is a unique person. I said my connection with you is Rodney. I know you. I hear you segue from that, but I'm just telling you. So, what you just said about your track record is unique to any party who gets you on their slate. Yeah. Before I go to personal questions, let me ask a political question. The AFC tried to partner with APNU and could not come to a consensus sufficient enough to bring them together. And the word on the street was because Mr. Hughes probably didn't think that Aubrey could win. And so that's the word on the street, right? That's why he wanted what he wanted. Do you think Aubrey could win? And if so, why?
I think Aubrey can win. I also think it would have been better for the traditional opposition forces to be under one umbrella. And I worked particularly hard to try to make that happen. But in terms of why Aubrey can win, I think that we have, again, and forgive me if I sound as though I'm just being repetitive, I think we have political forces deep in corruption. When you, if you, I mean, I know that you're in the role of an interview here and you got to keep your independence and so on, and objectivity as a journalist. But, and I know I'm putting you on the spot.
You can't ask me a question.
I can't ask you a question, but I'm telling you.
You're putting it to me now, but now you're lying.
I put it to you.
There's the attorney in you.
I am putting it to you,
sir.
That as a pastor, forget the journalist, as a pastor, when you look at what is happening in this country, it must cause you great angst. We have, to my mind, it is clear, and I'm not going to be fooled, you know, the PPP had a challenge, or they have a challenge. In 2011, I'm repeating this everywhere I speak. In 2011, they lost control of Parliament by 1 seat. In 2015, they lost government by 1 seat. In 2020, they reclaimed government just by 1 seat. And they came to a decision that they're going to capture some fools, but not because they want to reach out to those people in any genuine way, but they will capture them so to protect their majority. This one seat thing wasn't working no more. And so they decide, we're going to capture some people, we're going to pull in some additional votes, right? Just so we can continue with our part of corruption.
Wait.
We're going to throw some crumbs from the master's table.
Wait. When I ask die-hard APNU members why they lost the last election, very few of them on camera or in a public setting would admit that they lost. Behind the scenes, they would admit, but they can't let their followers know that they honestly believe they lost. And here why I think they lost. Because they won by 1 seat. When they won in 2015, they won by 1 seat. And how did they win? They told the sugar people that they're going to do right by sugar workers. They told the rice people they're going to increase the price of paddy. They told young people, vote for us. When they got into office, they told the young people that government don't find work for people. They told the rice people that rice is a private industry. And they shut down sugar. So if you ask me as a novice why the coalition lost, I'll tell you it was because they lost sugar people, they lost rice people, and they lost young people. So the math, you're a businessman. If you won by 1 seat, and you told these large groups, rice, sugar, youth, that will represent you, then when you get into office, you fail to represent them. You increase the chances of winning, and that is anecdotal, right? Good. So when you say that the PPP is now inviting and making overtures to fools, that's your term. Wasn't that what the coalition did when they made overtures to these people? Wasn't it a trick to tell the rice people we're going to support you, then get in office and say rice is private, tell young people we're going to support you, and then tell the young people that the government don't provide jobs, tell the sugar people we're going to do better with sugar, and then shut down? You see the connection I'm making as a novice?
So I will, and I think I said that the APNU AFC coalition made some mistakes. It's not for me really to speak for the administration. I was not a part of it. I have nothing.
No, I'm
getting
ahead,
there.
sorry.
I'm getting there. I would venture so much to say that the sugar situation should have been handled differently. And I am a small percentage academic. And that leads me to research. When I make this, when you have to make public policy decisions, you do research. And Trinidad had Corona, and I think we could have looked to regional examples and done a better job. I think that some ground was lost with the way the sugar situation was handled. But my focus is the PPP.
I see, and I know. Yeah. So as a politician, maybe on record, I don't know if you've been asked this question before, but do you think that the coalition lost the last election, fair and square?
I would leave that for the coalition.
You make me laugh.
The way I deal with it, I said, listen, Irfan Ali is in power.
No. You sound like the people. You sound like Trump. You sound like the Trump folk who can't admit that they lost.
You're gonna put me in some
because it's the same thing. When you ask the guys from the GOP, did you all lose the election? They say the same thing. That Biden is the president.
Listen, for me, Irfan Ali is in power. He's the president. The record shows that he won the election. That's what the record shows.
All right. Let's segue a little. When I asked Mr. Nigel Hughes about the oil, how he plans to disseminate it's too strong a word, but divvy up. he's saying that 10% of the oil revenue he thinks should go back to the populace. I think you were saying 25%.
No.
What were you saying?
No, the 25% that I am speaking about, what is happening is that the PPP changed the legislation. So of the first tranche of money coming in, they at first said they would take 75 and they move it up to 95%. It lowers over time, but so there's nothing being saved. A sovereign wealth fund should have, in Guyana's case, should have, to my mind, 3 elements. Element 1 is intergenerational savings. You put in money aside for future generations. You really want, and this is a rough number, ideally, I would like to see us save to get about $100 billion. With $100 billion, even if we're investing in very safe assets and we get an 8% return, that's $8 billion a year. And so basically, the country doesn't have to work anymore. Everybody could just stay home. This is not what, I'm not advocating this as policy, but follow me here. With $8 billion, basically, with $100 billion, and an 8% return, that's $8 billion that can take care of us, right? It is not dissimilar to a strategy that I'm pursuing for my own life. I want to amass a number of assets. I don't have a pension as a businessman. I will get a old age pension and so on. And I want to have the assets and I want to rent them out. I'm not going to be able to run behind employees, hire employees. So I want to rent it out so that the rent income takes care of me. It is that on a macro scale that I want to see Guyana do. Build up for intergenerational savings.
So that's the first, intergenerational.
Right. The second thing is, in economics, there's always shocks. You got oil price shocks, the oil price drop, COVID. I mean, oil prices were down way, way, way low. And so it's a commodity. And the long term for oil is going to go down.
It's not renewable.
Right. So we should have some money for stabilization. So whenever there's a shock, it might be COVID, God forbid we ever have to go through anything like that, but it might be something that we don't, we have this contingency fund that will tide us through that period. And then in our particular case, we have what the legislation calls national development priorities. And they're not only infrastructure, all right? This government seems caught up with infrastructure because it's the easiest way, and I'm going to drive this home again, corruption, all right? It's the easiest way. None of tomorrow I'll be talking about agriculture, right? We have not addressed agriculture. We're talking about the presence of a farmer's market, but we have not addressed agriculture. The reason that I have to pay $1,250 for a small watermelon like this, right? The reason that when I go to the market, that I have to pay $1,000 for an avocado, right? We're growing, listen, I just came from the Essequibo Coast, which is where I grew up until I was 8, and I still identify as my home. And a friend sent some of the most beautiful avocados for me. Oh my God, lovely. Man, smooth. And I'm telling you that the imported avocados have nothing. Nothing can't compete. In fact, the next time I go to the Essequibo Coast, I want to ask, just from a public policy perspective, to go see the farm, this avocado farm that produces these beautiful avocados. But everything, the price of everything, and it's simple. So it's a supply issue.
Look, let me tell you. I'm going to let you develop your point, but I want to speak to I went to Blackbush Polder. They had the hurricanes a couple of years ago, came through the small islands and devastated Dominica and those, right? And there's a Guyanese family who work in the hotel industry, I think in St. Kitts. So they contacted me and said, look, Dominica can provide the thing for the hotels in St. Kitts. We're going to try to come to Guyana, cold storage it, and ship it to St. Kitts. We need a point man. I became the point man. Drove up to Blackbush border. Can't get anything. All the thousands of acres. Everybody planting pumpkin the same time. Everybody planting cassava the same time. So there's a boom and a bust of everything. There's no sufficient strategy, you know, for all those thousands of acres of land. And I said to myself, how can these farmers have been doing agriculture for all these years and not come together as farmers and decide, look, you can plant this and it's going to take this long to come to fruition. So we're going to have something coming in and going out, coming in and going out, so we don't have this boom and bust all the time, right? The other thing is that I tried to do some import of fruits and vegetables into Barbados. Went to the leading importer in Barbados. The guy told me, we don't do business with Guyanese. We bring in our fruits and vegetables from California and Miami. And the reason why is that the Guyanese businessmen they're unethical. They would tell you the price of pineapple is this for the first shipment, and then raise the price for the next shipment. And so the businessman said they don't do business with Guyanese businessmen. And I'm saying that to you to say, is the government really responsible for coming down in the trenches and doing the kind of coordination? Can the businessmen, the farmers lead? Is that a government responsibility? Do you see that as a government responsibility?
I think it's a government responsibility. So let's take one point you made, everybody planting pumpkin. It's a government responsibility maybe to incentivize, you know, them to move towards other crops that are necessary, bora and so on, right? Because sometimes the price of bora.
Same thing, same.
Right.
Boom and bust.
Same boom and bust. So I think the government has a responsibility. Once you see that situation, left alone, it's not happening. Left alone, we are now in the situation where you go to the market and avocados being imported, oranges being imported, plantain chips, big import, tangerines being imported.
We bring in Pine Hill dairy stuff from Barbados here.
Exactly.
I mean,
and they don't grow anything.
No, how could we import juice from Barbados?
Exactly.
You understand? So I have the same kind of questions. It's just that
there is a role for government.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Terrence. What I'm hearing from folks who are vying to be the leaders is trying to say that government will do this and government will do that. And
you don't want a heavy hand.
Well,
of
that's what I'm
government,
saying.
But you want a guiding hand of government.
Do you have the man? You see what I mean? Do you have the manpower for that? Guyana has suffered a brain drain now for 60 years. We still have people graduating and leaving this country in record numbers.
But Wendell, in this year alone, I have lost one person, resigned as of Friday. Friday was the last day. Long-term employees, they're in their 50s, been with me 20 years. They're my right hand and my left hand, and they're migrating.
Correct.
Even
in their 40s and 50s.
But this is because all of this is tied to corruption, you know. Corruption creates such dysfunction that people who have ability cannot survive. And you know, who takes when there is corruption and this kind of dysfunction that we have, the person who has nothing to lose is the one who jumps for the opportunity. And the person who has something to lose say, no, I don't want to get involved in that. And they use the passport to get it. But I want to touch on one thing.
Go ahead.
You mentioned something important about the perception of the Barbadian businessmen to supply from Guyana. And it also applies to Green Heart and a number of other things. Where is our Ministry of Trade, Wendell? Where is our Ministry of Trade that is opening up markets, that is mentoring our exporters,
No, you see,
that is training our exporters?
no, you asked the question, you bore in my heart, because we're saying the same thing. I'm saying to you that the Ministry of Trade, when they open markets for fruits and vegetables coming out of Guyana, when they go to Blackbush Polar to get pumpkin this month, and they fill 5 containers with pumpkin, there is no pumpkin coming on in the next 2 months, 3 months to fill the next 5 containers. So when they go to the importer in Barbados and St. Kitts and across the Caribbean and North America, and they promise pumpkin for the hotels and the supermarkets, we don't have a strategy in Guyana for that continuum. You see what I mean? And what I'm hearing you say is that that is needed, a holistic approach. But we lack manpower. Well, let me say something quickly to you. I interviewed the former finance minister, Mr. Jordan. He sat where you sit. You know what he told me? He said, as the Minister of Finance, during the 5 years of APNU, year after year, they had to return billions and millions of dollars, maybe millions of dollars to the consolidated fund because of a failure to execute. The minister told me that. Because Guyana, while they were administrating the country, they lacked the kind of governance and the kind of needed oversight and stuff. So a lot of the projects could not have been implemented because they did not have the administrative. So I'm saying to you,
it is a huge problem.
As you sit there, you're promising that when once APNU gets in, we'll do this and this and that. But aren't you going to have the same problem that the Granger administration had 5 years ago?
Let me say that Hart faced the same problem back in 1985 when after Barnum died. And he made the heroic decision to change direction. And you kind of asked me earlier, sometimes, Hike must have sat there. He was capitalist, he was market oriented all the time, but he sat there and bided his time, and then the minute he got into power, he changed. And he searched for people locally, and he brought back some people to help him execute the economic recovery program. I think we have enough people here
and in the diaspora,
to get. We got to be careful with the diaspora. Not everybody who comes say they could do X and do Y can do it.
You save yourself by saying that, because I was waiting. Because one of the things that former President Granger ran on the campaign trail was creating a diaspora outfit out of office of the presidency. Never did it. Never did it. So I'm glad that you said 2 things in one, which is that there are people out there in the diaspora, and even people who don't belong originally from Guyana, who can help an APNU administration, and you got away and lessened the potency of my point when you said that not everybody who is out there.
I know. And generally, I think, and this is my own perspective, that the ones who come running for us are not the ones who could do the job. It tends to be the first one who turned up.
Be careful with that, because there are some people who want to dedicate their energies towards the happiness.
All I'm saying, the first one who turned up, I'm gonna look at them good. But I will also try to reach those, because we have some phenomenal people in the diaspora across every single area who are at the top of the game.
I know. I lived outside of Guyana. We have a Guyanese who's virtually running the central bank in Barbados. My niece.
Wow.
Guyanese.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a Guyanese the chief medical officer in Barbados is the brother of
of
of acting Chancellor Roxanne George.
Yeah. So we have I'm Trinidad. I've been across the Caribbean. You know,
we have people.
Montserrat. We've got government ministers in Montserrat, Guyanese.
But I also will say one more thing. I would say on that point, and this is not to put former Minister Winston Jordan, but if I were to sit in that seat as a businessman, I will also be, I think, a little more in the trenches on the execution side. If I'm sitting in that seat, I'm going to leave the office and get out on the road, and because I understand. Listen, I have it in my own business. I'm facing the same problems, but somehow or the other, I got to make it happen eventually. And so it's with that experience in mind that I will come and not only just release the money, but come and make sure that we execute it.
My caution, even as we come to the top of the hour, is I think what the Guyanese populace is listening for, particularly those who are what we call swing voters, because it is obvious that Guyana has swing voters. At least over the last...
Maybe not a big thing.
Not a big thing, but we have swing voters
they're
because
there.
the PPP lost power, which shows that Guyana has swing voters. And then the coalition lost. What the sense is on the street is they're listening for common sense initiatives. They're listening for what makes sense, and I find that sometimes what they're hearing could be a lot of over promising, and if it's not that, it's biases, inherent biases either which way, and we are moving away. I think that with AI and the ability to research and stuff like that, folks are moving away. So if you were to, in the last few moments we have, cast a vision for what you think the APNU administration will bring to Guyana that is not now or has never been, what would it be?
I think the APNU administration under Mr. Norton, who, if you know him, you know he's a grassroots man. We first want to deliver benefits from this oil economy to the grassroots. But we also, I think there is a fear coming out of the last AFC administration that growth may slow under the APNU. There will be no slowdown in growth. We will continue to invest in infrastructure, paced investment in infrastructure. In other words, we're not going to build a road. I'm not going to give Wendell, a pastor and a criminologist, a road to build, and he ain't know nothing. I may give him, but I'll say, you got to show me who's your engineer. Maybe we give you some training and so on. Because yes, we want to develop we want the infrastructure to be built. We want Wendell and others to get involved and become entrepreneurs, but we also don't want to waste money. So you will see an APNU administration try to deliver benefits that cushion, give everybody a livable income, especially those who are suffering. You will see paced infrastructure investment, but you will also see infrastructure investment that is tied to growth in exports, because we've got to build a resilient economy. Listen, if the oil price collapses tomorrow, it is hell in this country. And you've pointed out the Caribbean markets and so on. So you might see, and don't take this as granted, but let me just throw something out to you. You may see an APNU administration says, let's prioritize a road from Perico to Goshen, because we're going to be able to open up a lot of lands, for agricultural purposes. You may see an APNU administration that says, we're going to develop a special economic zone with lower tax rates. And over the weekend, you may hear me talking a little more about this. So as to push to push manufacturing and industrial development, because we have we have a private sector that has gotten fat. Some of them literally have gotten fat and rich because they buy and sell.
Okay, you're private sector man, right? You're private sector man.
I'm a private sector man, but I'm not that private sector.
Yeah. So let me say something. Let me ask you two questions quickly. One is, if the government should increase in a substantial way the salaries or the earnings of the public sector, how would it affect a person like you in the private sector? Don't you think that there would be an exodus from your entities into the public sector, and because you might not be able to match? I'm glad I'm talking to you, because that question always sat at the back of my mind.
So, as somebody in the fast food, who used to be in the fast food industry, there is some of that would take place. It's got a crowding out. They call it the crowding out effect on labor, that when the government raises, because folks never wanted to stay and stand on their feet frying chicken for 8 hours when you could go sit down in a cushy government job for 8 hours and make much more money. The thing about it, the government spend and that increase has a multiplier effect. Okay. And so I'll tell you, as a wicked private sector man, I looked for when the government got increases or back pay was going to be paid to raise my prices and then be able to pay my own people and compete with them.
So you think it would be a...
I think any private sector person worth his salt knows how to deal with that situation. Okay. I'm more worried that we must do something for it to be real, because there's a potential for inflation. Everybody's saying they're going to pay more, and it's not just APNU that is laid out comprehensively. The AFC, everybody is there. It is absolutely important to expand our productive sector, to increase the supply of goods and services, and bring the price down, right? Because there will be an inflationary effect to it. Right. But we must have, you need to have a government and with people who have the skills to expand the production side.
So which comes first, an increase in salary across the board or the expansion of the sectors?
We have no choice. People are suffering, so we'll have to have the increase in salary, because there are people who are really suffering. Even
given the fallout among
you may have a short-term slight
among the private sector.
But we're gonna put steps in place very quickly to build the productive side.
One last question, we're at the top of the hour. Mm-hmm. Did you give any consideration at all of teaming up with Team Mohammed, the Win Party?
No.
Why?
I have been in business since 1987. Started doing business. I was still working in Guyana when I started doing business. I moved out on my own in 1990. I was just 26 years old. Been unemployed since 1990. I made a decision even prior to 1990 that I was going to walk the straight and narrow in business, right? I was not going to cut corners. I would not declare a false invoice on anything. I was not going to bribe anybody. There are times when my restaurants would be without power and the guys from GPL want to raise, and I would get mad, say, you are not to pay anybody, leave, let it good spoil. I've lost millions of dollars like that, waiting for permissions and so on. When I actually rented a restaurant on a building on Crowell Street that was called Sino Fast Food. It was a restaurant. And the people from City Hall, including people who are now gone to the PPP, turned up and said, this place has no permission to operate as a restaurant. The place has been operating as a restaurant for years. But as soon as I took it over. Now, I'm not saying they in particular asked me anything, but I know that a million or so would have greased the wheels and everything would have been okay. Not only did we get the permission from Central Housing for change of use, and we got the permission from GWI, City Hall never released the permission for us. I lost $35 million when $1 million maybe could have cleared everything up. That is the way that I've lived my life in business.
You're saying all of that to say?
I say all of this to say that I could not engage with somebody personally.
So you believe the charges against him are valid?
I could not engage with somebody who is sanctioned. The Mohammeds will, I have spoken with them. I think I understand what took place, but they will answer whether the charges are valid or not.
Terrence,
it's been
it
a
was
pleasure.
a pleasure, man.
Yeah.
We really did gap.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on Election Insights. Please look out for our programs again as we rush towards the September 1st elections. God bless you. Thanks for joining. See you next time.